Okay, Jet fans, Darrell Revis.
Being in New York has been one of the greatest blessings.
Mekhi Becton.
Let's go, I'm ready. Go, let's go.
The New York Jets select.
Welcome to our Jets Draft Countdown series presented by Duncan. I'm Eric Allen inside the BetMGM studio. In just 2 weeks, the 2021 NFL Draft will commence. Last week, Jets GM Joe Douglas said it would be a fair assessment that the Jets will take a quarterback with the number 2 overall pick. That was after Douglas acquired 3 draft picks from the Carolina Panthers in the trade that sent Sam Darnold to Carolina. With 10 picks and 11 picks over the next 2 drafts, Douglas has plenty of assets and he has flexibility. Douglas knows he has to get the decisions right, whether it's turning the card in or trading for a proven commodity. He said that the Jets have to surround their new quarterback with as much talent as possible. Coming up, we'll take a long look at the top quarterbacks in this class with Jets legends Anthony Becht and Eric Coleman. And Ethan Greenberg will go signal caller heavy with Athletics NFL draft analyst Dane Brugler. Olivia Landis will check in with NFL Network's Charles Davis. And Brian Baldinger will move to the other side of the ball and break down the film of some of the top cornerbacks. Lastly, we'll look at what directions the pundits have the Jets going as we'll discuss a couple of mock drafts. But let's start with Eric Coleman and Anthony Becht. Fellas, great to see you. The countdown is on. Anthony, are we confident? I mean, we're confident that the Jets are going to take a quarterback with the number 2 overall selection. The outside world, they've zeroed in on BYU's Zach Wilson. Realistically, how many horses do you believe are in this race?
Yeah, that seems to be what everyone is talking about now, is the standpoint of, okay, yeah, Zach Wilson's the guy, everything's setting up that situationally wise, but I think it is a 2-horse race. I think Justin Fields is in the conversation because he does offer you the athleticism, the movement, the size, the arm strength as well. So, but listen, if you listen to everyone, it's Zach Wilson seems to be the favorite heading into this draft.
Eric, how about you?
That's a great question. I think that Justin Fields has done a great job throughout his career. Zach Wilson obviously has been the talk of the town, of late. He had a great pro day, great showing. But there are some other quarterbacks like Mac Jones from Alabama who's had a lot of talent around him throughout his career. And Trey Lance, a guy who played 1 year and shown that he has a lot of potential as well. And that's what the draft is all about. It's all about potential, what these players are going to amount to. So we'll see what the Jets have.
Anthony, the Jets never set it up the way they wanted around Sam Darnold. What do they have to do now to make sure it doesn't happen again?
Saleh wants to bring to the table for this football team offensively. And of course, when you're talking about run blocking and sustaining the pass situation and all those different things that come together, you got to have a run game behind it as well. So as you look at this, I think you have to support your quarterback with a running back and an offensive line from left to right, all the way across. And they have some pieces in place, but if you can find one more element, maybe 2 if you're lucky, to step in right now and be a factor, then that ultimately, with the receivers that were brought in free agency and all those other guys, and Corey Davis and Cole, those guys can absolutely take this offense to the next level.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Anthony. I think under Mike LaFleur, the Jets are going to try to get after teams with the run game and set up some things down the field with that play-action passing attack. Eric, what do you think about the Jets' current roster on offense that was bolstered here in free agency with the additions of the aforementioned Corey Davis, Keelan Cole, and Tevin Coleman?
I think it's exciting. When you look at guys like Corey Davis, he's big, he's strong, he has big play potential. He's been on the cusp of being a 1,000-yard receiver since he got into the league. And Keelan Cole is a guy who's explosive, he makes great plays, makes dynamic plays, along with Crowder, Denzel Mims, who you already have. And then we talk about Tevin Coleman. The new 2.6 wearing, Coleman wearing 2.6 in town. I think he's a physical runner. He's been over 4 yards per carry his whole career. He's a downhill type runner. I think that's just great to the addition.
So real talk here, Eric Coleman. Is Tevin Coleman trying to erase you from the Jets history books?
Well, he already worked on it with Atlanta, with the 2-6, but now he's coming over here. But I was talking with Anthony the other day. I think it's great because I may be able to buy my jersey again. Might have the 2-6 Coleman walking around the MetLife Stadium, so that'll be cool.
Well said. Anthony, where are this unit's strengths right now as we sit here 2 weeks prior to the draft?
Well, I think for me, you got to look at some of the pieces that are there at offensive line. McGovern at center is obviously a key piece. Becton, another guy that, again, is going to be an outstanding player for years to come. And especially the fact that that's going to be protecting the backside of your quarterback for a long time as well. Those are the pieces in place, and especially the signings and free agency. Corey Davis to me brings a lot of excitement. Cole is a receiver from Jacksonville who is going to bring a very professional attitude, someone that's got a lot of dog in him, someone that's not going to take a lot of that, he's going to bring some of that fierce play at the receiver position, and he's going to compete every day in practice. So when you're talking about adding to him to Mims and letting him grow, those are two guys that I think Corey Davis being a high draft pick, and of course Cole, who's worked his way into being that kind of serious receiver, man, that only is going to raise the bar for Mims as well.
So AB likes the direction the Jets are going at the receiver position. Where do you see the holes right now or pressing needs?
Well, when you look at the pressing needs, and I hate to say it because there's so much potential there, is at the tight end position. You look at Chris Herndon, a guy who we were waiting to emerge last year to get those opportunities. Didn't feed him the ball much last year. I think that he'll get more opportunity this year. But, you have Griffin still in the room, Wesco, another guy who can catch the ball and run block. But, when you think about the NFL, as a former safety, the problem area becomes when you can get that tight end that can go inside and block. He can step out and split out and create those mismatches. It makes it hard for a defense to play against you when you have that versatility at the tight end position.
All right, fellas, time is ticking down. Are you ready to go on the clock?
Let's do it.
Go.
Anthony, you're up first. Who is the best quarterback prospect in this class not named Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, so again, a lot of buzz for Zach Wilson, and very much so. I'm going to stick with Justin Fields, and I think this is really close. I mean, we're pulling hairs right now. I just look at competitive balance, who he's played against, how successful he's been in the big-time games.
Eric, how many quarterbacks will be taken in the first round?
Man, this is going to be a quarterback-heavy first round. When you look at it, I think there's going to be 5, possibly 6 quarterbacks taken. You talk about the Jets, obviously the Jaguars, Atlanta needing a quarterback. And even though they just traded for Sam Darnold, some people think that the Panthers may draft a quarterback as well. So, I think there's going to be 5, possibly 6 quarterbacks taken in this first round.
You're hedging your bet, 5 or 6, E.
I'll go 5. I'll go 5. I'm going to stay with 5.
Anthony, can you provide a pro comparison for the aforementioned Zach Wilson?
I can. And listen now, when I say this name, guys, I want you to stick to the world of football. Don't think about off the field or anything else. But when I watch his body of work, I think about Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M when he came out. Football-wise, dynamic, can throw on the move. Exciting on the field. I mean, again, just brings you that element of just a wow factor.
Wow. Eric, who is the best non-quarterback prospect in the 2021 draft?
That's a great one. I'm going to go with Sewell from Oregon, the big left tackle. I mean, when you watch this guy play, I mean, he's humongous. He has amazing feet. He moves like a tight end when he's blocking, but he has the power as well. I think that if you're an organization looking to protect your quarterback, to bolster that offensive line, I think Sewell is the best player besides Trevor Lawrence and all the other quarterbacks in this draft.
Anthony, you got about 5 seconds. Will the Jets be the only team in the AFC East to take a quarterback in round 1?
No, I think the Patriots are going to try to find a way to get a guy where they're at or move up, so it should be interesting. Another young quarterback potentially coming to the division.
Thanks, gentlemen. We'll see you both shortly. Last week, the Athletics' Dane Brugler released his 2021 draft guide that includes rankings of 636 prospects and 415 scouting reports. We'll just give you now a quick snapshot of how Dane rates the quarterback class. For more from Brugler, here is our own Ethan Greenberg.
Thanks, EA. Let's bring in Dane. Dane, we just took a look at your top 10 quarterbacks. Why is Zach Wilson, in your opinion, the second best in this group behind Trevor Lawrence?
For me, there's a clear-cut number 2. And, it's been that way since the fall. Zach Wilson out of BYU. I took a lot of heat in October when I said, listen, this guy he's in the mix for that number 2 quarterback this year. And then in November, my first mock draft, I had him going number 2. And, I took some heat for it, but that's just what I see. And, I think I can justify it with the way he's played this year. And Zach Wilson is really, really interesting because, he did not face a murderer's row competition in terms of the schedule. But when you break down his skill set, he doesn't have a huge arm, but he's got a whip of an arm. So he can, fire off these strikes while on the move. He can play within the pocket, but his off-platform stuff is outstanding. His ability to make those quick decisions on the move, but still be accurate is so impressive. And so he doesn't have the ideal body type. He's a little narrow through his core, but you look at the strengths of his game: natural accuracy, the off-platform stuff. And again, I really want to hit on this. It's the ability to make great spontaneous decisions. That's what really sells it for me. That's what Bill Walsh always talked about, legendary Hall of Fame coach. That's what separated Joe Montana from everybody else. And I'm not comparing Zach Wilson and Joe Montana necessarily, saying they're the same quarterback, but that's what Bill Walsh always talked about is, what separated the top quarterbacks that he worked with in his mind.
So after Lawrence and Wilson, you have Trey Lance out of North Dakota State and then Justin Fields out of Ohio State. Why are they the next 2 best quarterbacks in this year's class?
Really tough with these next 3 quarterbacks because, I think Lance and Fields, to me, they're kind of neck and neck fighting for the 3 and 4 spots. Lance is such an unprecedented evaluation. When you talk about a player who's got 17 career starts, okay, well, Mac Jones has 17 career starts, but Mac Jones did it in the SEC. Trey Lance did it against FCS competition. It's a player that's supremely gifted with, his athleticism for that size, his ability to make throws. It seems like he processes things very well. I think he has some natural passing instincts, but it's still a player that, there are a lot of one read and run type of plays on his film. But with Justin Fields, I think he's an easy player to like when you look at the talent, the competitive toughness, a player that when things are on time, his tempo, his rhythm, his accuracy is on point. And I thought that Ohio State offense really helped keep things on schedule. But when things got off schedule, that's where he struggled a little bit. When that first target's taken away, that when he's forced to move his eyes and improvise, he just wasn't as comfortable. He didn't execute at the same type of level. And so for me, that's why, Justin Fields isn't 2 for me. He's in that 3-4 discussion. Now, I think he can get better in those areas. I think he will get better in those areas. And the talent is, you're going to bet on that talent. And the intangibles are what you can get on board with. A type of guy that's can rally the team. He's a true leader in the huddle. So there's a lot of things going for both Trey Lance and Justin Fields. I think it just comes. A big part is going to be the interviews and finding out, where are they mentally in their development. With both Fields and Lance.
If you want more information on Dane's rankings, any information on these quarterbacks, or any draft-eligible prospect, be sure to check out Dane's draft guide on The Athletic, also known as The Beast. Dane, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Ethan.
You need an extra category here, and it's the wow throw category. You might lead the nation in throws of that type.
For sure, this draft is full of good players. Something I feel like that separates me is, just my passion for the game.
I think I'm different than those guys. I know my work ethic is unmatched, and just my dedication and my passion to wanting to be great is just another level. So, I'm going to focus on myself and focus on continuing to get better in every aspect of the game.
Somebody that can extend plays, somebody that can make something happen outside of the offense when things break down is something I take a lot of pride in.
Yeah, I'll tell you what he showed me first and foremost is that he has got an absolute gun on him for an arm.
Yeah, honestly, I think whatever situation I'm put into, I'm going to be, get as prepared as possible to be ready to go whenever the coaches see fit. But I'm just looking for opportunity anywhere at this point. Obviously, I don't pick where I go, but I'd be super grateful to go anywhere.
So, I mean, this quarterback class is a really good class. You know, I'm just blessed to be a part of it. What separates me is my preparation and my ability to take what I learned from the coaches' meetings and my own meetings and then apply it to the field. I'm going to do exactly what the coach tells me to do. And if another team wants me to run zone read or do something like that, I'll do that. So I'm willing to do whatever. And in terms of the draft.
You are watching the Jets Draft Countdown Series presented by Duncan. I'm Eric Allen inside the beautiful BetMGM studio. Charles Davis is one of football's top analysts. The longtime announcer continues to wear many hats, providing commentary for both CBS and NFL Network. And Davis is always a must to talk to when the NFL draft comes into focus. With that in mind, Olivia Landis is with Charles right now.
Thanks, EA. Charles, after GM Joe Douglas traded quarterback Sam Darnold to the Carolina Panthers, he spoke to the media and said it is a fair assessment that the Jets will be taking a quarterback with that number 2 overall pick. In your opinion, who do you envision being the best quarterback to come to the New York Jets with that number 2 pick?
Well, Olivia, I think that, you know, what we envision and what Joe Douglas and now Robert Saleh and crew envision may be the same. It may be different. To me, Zach Wilson is the choice there out of BYU. He would be my number 2 quarterback if I were doing a whole bunch of the ranking game. But I started watching him as the season progressed, and then as we got into the offseason and obviously the run up to the draft, did a little bit more, of course, like everyone else. And I've been extremely impressed with him. He seems to fit exactly what you would want in trying to kickstart a franchise, trying to build around someone. And he's very similar to me in a lot of ways, with maybe even a little more athleticism than Joe Burrow was last year in terms of what I call second and third reaction plays. Beautiful arm, great touch, plays with a ton of poise. Teammates really gravitate towards him, having spent some time with people at BYU and other people around him. And this kid loves ball. I mean, he's all ball all the time. And I give him extra points for having played through injured a couple of years ago. And people were starting to criticize him and, you know, people not understanding what he was playing with and trying to play through. So I like this kid a lot, and they have great options, obviously.
Well, you mentioned Zach Wilson. Let's dive a little bit deeper into him. What about his strengths and even weaknesses do you think would make him a good fit in a system that is going to be run by offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur?
Well, I'll start with the so-called perceived weaknesses. You know, size is always something that comes into play. He's not, you know, the biggest, strongest, stoutest guy you're ever going to see. I don't think he's as small as maybe some people think. I think he's going to check in somewhere around 210, 6'1" or so. And thank goodness we've erased that stigma about every quarterback having to be 6'5", 230 pounds. You know, we've seen smaller people be extremely successful in this league. And you go back now in the NFL and you go back in time, I'm sure you would talk to a lot of past coaches, GMs, evaluators would have said, yeah, I should have taken a chance on that smaller guy before. You know, because there were plenty of them that we rejected along the way. Well, we're not doing that now. Too many of these guys can play. And he's not tiny. So it's not like Eddie LeBaron, to give you one that will send everyone searching Google going, who the heck was Eddie LeBaron? Google him, you'll find out he was a significant quarterback in the NFL, but he was tiny. He's not that guy. This kid is put together fine. He moves great. He sees things. He throws with anticipation and touch. He can throw the deep ball. He can throw the short passes and keep the chains moving. He can make extra plays with his feet. And you mentioned with Mike LaFleur coming over, remember his brother Matt LaFleur, the head coach of the Packers, and coming out of that San Francisco system that Kyle Shanahan ran and emphasized. Kyle's had success with quarterbacks of all shapes, sizes, types. I don't think anything's going to change here with Mike LaFleur doing the same thing with Zach Wilson.
Charles, where do you specifically see the most depth in this 2021 NFL draft?
Well, it's starting to become a broken record, Olivia, but every year there are a million receivers because of the way the colleges are pitching the ball around. So there's always a ton of receivers there. But I do think there's a lot of depth in the offensive line. I don't think it's just restricted to one of the positions either. I think tackles, interior guys, there are a lot of really good players in this draft that way. I think when you flip it over to the other side, defensive backs continue to rise because there has to be answers in college football to try and slow down these offensive guys. So a number of them actually have offense in their background, had been flipped over. Caleb Farley from Virginia Tech is one of the leading examples. He went there as a receiver, but he's going to make his money as a cornerback, and that's worked out quite well for him. So those are places that I see a ton of depth in this draft.
Charles, thank you so much for your time and insight. We really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you very much for your time as well, and I appreciate it. Take care now.
Charles Davis is an NFL Network analyst, and you can catch him with NFL Network on their 2021 April draft coverage, April 29th through May 1st. EA, back to you.
Thanks, Olivia. Last April, the Jets selected Virginia quarterback Bryce Hall in the 5th round with the 158th overall selection. Hall, who had 44 pass defenses and 5 interceptions for the Wahoos, became the 11th Virginia player drafted by the Jets. In the 2018 campaign, Hall led FBS with 24 pass defenses, in addition to 2 interceptions, 2 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Hall appeared in 8 games for the Jets his rookie season, hauling in his first pro interception against the Rams and adding 3 pass defenses. For a look at some of the top cornerbacks in the 2021 draft class, here is the one and only Brian Baldinger.
It's a pretty good crop of corners this year, led by Alabama's Patrick Surtain up at the top. Nothing that Patrick Surtain doesn't do well. He's been wearing the deuce, number 2 at Alabama, since he got there and starting day 1, making open field tackles like that. A complete corner. Can play man, he can play zone, like he does at the bottom here against Kyle Pitts of Florida. I mean, on this little stop right here, perfect position. Put that back foot in the ground, now go make a break on the ball. I mean, complete technician. And so up at the top, he's been playing a lot of press man coverage in the SEC for 3 straight years. All right, doesn't get beat on the double move, in good position, and then when the ball's in the air, he's there to make the break. At 6'2", over 200 pounds, got great size. All the corners at the top of this draft had good size. Like J.C. Horn, number 1 from South Carolina. Really, for 3 years now, he's been playing for the Gamecocks, and he plays the ball in the air just excellent. Like he does here in this route in the corner of the end zone to break it up. Or how about this, the spray fade in the slot right here. Everybody in college and in the NFL runs this route, all right, from the slot position. He can play inside and he can play outside. But his length at over 6'1", running in the 4.4s, has the ability to make that play on a ball like that. Like he does at the bottom here. Only 2 interceptions in his 3 years at South Carolina. But I think he has a chance to get a lot at the NFL because of his length. He's got great feet, and he's got good size. And so when there's a miscommunication between the receiver and the cornerback, he's in perfect position to take that ball away against Auburn. In fact, both of his interceptions came against Auburn. But maybe the most talented corner in the whole draft is Caleb Farley, up at the top. He didn't play in 2020, he opted out. But for 2 years at Virginia Tech, he went up against the league's best in the ACC, like Chase Claypool. I mean, just plasters the receiver right here all the way to the sideline when Ian Book tries to get it to him. He's got great size at 6'1", almost 210 pounds. Here he's at the bottom, right? Runs in the 4.4s. 6 career interceptions on him. I mean, again, squeezes Chase Claypool. We saw what he did for the Steelers this year. Great game against Claypool in 2019. But he has all the ability to be able to lock you up man to man and just play. Like in this play right here, this little speed out. I mean, once he puts that foot in the ground, he can make a break on the ball with the best of them. Good length on all 3 of these corners. Pretty good group at the very top of this draft. Surtain, Horn, and Farley.
Hey Jets fans, Dunkin' delivers from more locations than ever, which makes it easier to get your faves fast with coffee, donuts, sandwiches, and more brought right to your door. Order now through Grubhub, Uber Eats, or DoorDash. Price and participation may vary, exclusions apply. Let Dunkin' run to you. Speaking of running, let's hurry up and get to Olivia for an update on the mock draft front.
Thanks, EA. As we edge closer to the 2021 NFL Draft, each week we are going to be bringing in some of the league's top mock drafts and breaking down what exactly these picks mean for the green and white. However, before we get started, let's bring back in Anthony Becht and Eric Coleman, who are standing by to give us some of your insight. Guys, thank you so much for joining us again. Ethan, let's dive right into this first mock draft. This one comes from NFL Network's Peter Schrager, and as we've already discussed, a lot of analysts around the league have that number two pick coming in with quarterback Zach Wilson. So we're not going to talk about him today. What I'd like to focus on is that number 23 overall pick. Schrager has wide receiver Rondale Moore coming for the Jets. What do you think about this pick, Ethan?
Well, I think this is an exciting pick because in this scenario, you get your quarterback, you get another playmaker already on top of what the Jets have here. And with Rondale Moore in particular, it's not often you talk about a 5'7" home run hitter. That is exactly what Rondale Moore is. He has 4.3 speed. He's a thicker player at 181 pounds, although shorter at 5'7". And I think the biggest question through the eyes of evaluators is the following. Is he the player we saw in 2018 who had over 1,000 yards receiving, who had 12 touchdowns, or is he the player over the past 2 seasons who only started 7 games, so has some durability concerns? All our questions will be answered in a couple weeks, but I'm curious, Anthony, how do you think Rondale Moore fits into this Mike LaFleur system, and what do you think of this pick overall?
Well, I think he's a great player. And quite frankly, this pick may be a little high. You may actually get him in the second round pick as well. But again, tremendous athlete. The one thing that sticks out about him on film versus elite defensive backs, secondary players that he played against in the Big Ten is that he rarely got ever tackled on the first time he made a guy miss. So he's always able to break a tackle or make the first guy miss, get those yards after the catch.
NFL Network's Peter Schrager there with Rondale Moore coming in at the number 23 overall pick for the New York Jets. Let's head to the mock draft number 2. This one comes from Fox Sports' Rob Rang. And yay, another interesting pick here. Number 23 overall, Rob Rang has wide receiver Rashad Bateman coming in with that pick. What's interesting to you about Rashad Bateman?
Well, every year we're talking about how great the wide receiver class is, and this year is no different. You got studs at the top, you got depth throughout. What's interesting about Bateman is he's a big-time red zone threat, 19 touchdowns at Minnesota. He caught a pass in every game he lined up in. He has position flexibility. I'm wondering if this would be more of a luxury pick because Bateman is considered a power forward. And even though he lined up at his pro day less than 6'1" and 190 pounds, he's a guy who can box people out. Well, the Jets already have 2 players like that in Denzel Mims and Corey Davis.
Fox Sports' Rob Rang, again, he had a 3-round mock draft, so we're going to break down some more of those picks. Let's now go to Eric Coleman. Let's take a look at Asante Samuel Jr. here. He's the 2nd-round pick that he has for the Jets, taking number 34 overall. EC, what stands out to you about Asante Samuel Jr.?
Well, when I watch film on Asante Samuel Jr., I love his foot position. He plays over his toes. He has great leverage. He's explosive out of his breaks. He can play man-to-man where he's very physical and closes well in receivers, but he excels when playing in zone coverage, when he drops back and plays in cover 2, when he's in cover 3. And we all know that Robert Saleh loves to play his zone coverage. He has excellent instincts, and he sees the quarterback well, breaks on the ball well, and is very aggressive and violent when coming up in run support. So, I think would be a fantastic fit for this defense. He's a tone setter at the cornerback position.
Now, Ethan, we're going to jump back to you for the final 2 picks here. We said 3 rounds. So these 3rd-round picks, he's got number 66 overall Wyatt Davis and number 86 overall with Chuba Hubbard. What do you think about these 2 picks?
Well, outside of Chuba having a great name, I like the way this mock draft has rounded out. You start with the quarterback, you get the playmaker, you add to your defense, and then you double down on offense in the 3rd round. And with Wyatt Davis, what's not to like about him? 2019 and 2020, a first-team All-American, has manhandled that right guard spot for the Ohio State Buckeyes each of the past 2 years. Willie Davis is his grandfather, the Hall of Fame defensive lineman. And with Davis, I think you would expect him to immediately contribute or at least compete for snaps. So could he start day 1? Maybe, but I think you add depth immediately. And with Chuba Hubbard in 2019, he led the FBS in rushing yards, had over 2,000, 21 touchdowns. So if the Jets are going to attack the running back position by committee, which a lot of people expect the Jets to do, why not add another horse to the stable who didn't quite have the same year in 2020 as he did in 2019, but college football was a much different world this past season. So I like the mock draft that Rob Rang published, and I think a lot of Jets fans would like it too.
Well, as the April draft approaches quickly, we will be evaluating more and more mock drafts from around the league. That's a wrap on this week's mock draft breakdown. But what it's not a wrap on, do not miss your opportunity to win $100,000, Jets fans. Participate in the Jets Schedule Challenge presented by JetBlue and predict the exact order of all 17 games, including the bye week. Visit jetschedulechallenge.com for a chance to win and the official rules. EA, back to you.
Thanks, Liv. I'm already working on that Jets schedule 2021 style because I want the $100,000. If you missed any part of today's show, you're in luck because the Jets Draft Countdown series, delivered by Duncan, is archived across all our platforms. Thanks to Charles Davis, Dane Brugler, Brian Baldinger, Eric Coleman, Anthony Beck, plus Olivia Landis and Ethan Greenberg. Next week, we'll go well beyond that number 2 overall pick and explore some more defensive opportunities on days 1 and 2. Until next time, everyone, so long.